Cool. So we're ready to roll. You ready? You ready, Dan?
Yep, I'm ready to go.
Right. Everybody got their coffee?
Got my coffee. I'm ready.
Right. Excellent. All right. All right, guys. Well, we're back for another great episode. We are excited. This has been a few months, I think, in the making here, if I'm not mistaken. We want to welcome a good friend of ours, Dan Janssen from Lincoln Design Company. Dan, welcome, buddy.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, dude. This is going to be a great time. We really wanted to, God, we've been talking for a while, and I think just finally getting all of our schedules in order. This was our time to get together and do something fun. More importantly, too, like the whole idea here was to kind of have a really good discussion for our listeners as to what kind of advice you as a agency, specialty agency in our field and in our industry can give a lot of our listeners who are the solo or small organization kind of group and designer working freelance or solo entrepreneurs out there. Let's give them some advice and some tips based on a lot of your insight and everything else.
Yep. No, that sounds good.
Perfect, man. So for the two people that listen to us that probably don't know yet, give them a little brief introduction of you, the beginning stages of Lincoln. Floor is yours, bro.
Sounds good. So my name is Dan Janssen. I'm creative owner and creative director of Lincoln Design Company. We are based in Vancouver, Washington, not far from Portland, just right over the river. So we are a 10-person design studio up here in the Pacific Northwest, kind of specializing in, I'd say, branding, packaging, apparel design, kind of a little bit of everything, moving into animation now. So we've been in business. Lincoln's been in business for 5 years. Before that, I owned a studio in San Diego for 11. Previous to that, my first design job was at DC Shoes in San Diego. And I went to college at the Art Institute in Denver, Colorado. So
nice. Very cool, man.
Quick little background.
Awesome. I know from just working with so many young designers and particularly students and people, like when we went to Crop and everything, I love seeing how young designers just gravitate to you guys in general. That's got to be the coolest thing I see, and how you guys outreach as well.
Yeah. I mean, I've kind of, over the years, we've dealt with a lot of, I don't know, I would say younger, industry clients, whether it's like the action sports skateboard industry to the movie entertainment industry. So we get a lot of designers who kind of like or know some of the brands that we work with, so they kind of gravitate towards us and see that and and kind of go, oh, I know about Hot Wheels, or I know about this and that. So they kind of can relate to the work we do. So
totally. And I also think, like, when you start looking at just agencies in general, and for me, what always set Lincoln apart, right, like kind of coming in and always seeing your guys' stuff, was like you guys self-brand so well. And I think there's like kind of two trains of thought. Like some agencies are like, we're going to debrand and let the work show, but Lincoln, you leaned into the other route, probably I think better than anyone. I think it's the best example of people like really nailing this, like, we're an agency with a self-brand and we kill it. And, I'm wondering, like, your headspace, was that always sort of planned or methodically thought out? Or is it like, what, we like making shit and we're going to make our own shit, and this, and it kind of grew into something?
Yeah, I would say it kind of just evolved. It wasn't a complete plan from the beginning. I mean, like I said, I had a studio in San Diego that we closed down, and then we moved up here, changed the name to Lincoln. So when doing that, it was kind of like, okay, shit, we need to get the name out there. We need to kind of explain who we are, and doing just one mark or one logo for the company, isn't going to cut it. We need to make some merch, make some things, send them out to our clients who I was dealing with at the old studio, and kind of let them know, hey, this is the new name, this is the new look, this and that. So we went heavy on that in the beginning. And the more and more we did it, the more and more we got back, like, basically briefs with our poster in it and our logos and our apparel, that we were doing.
Cool.
So it was kind of like, oh shit, okay, this is working. We got, this brief from Nike, and half the brief is our poster and our patches and stuff. And it's like, so at that point, it's kind of like, okay, maybe we shouldn't stop. Let's keep pushing on this.
Yeah, totally.
And then, we we put some of it up on the website for sale, just kind of thinking we'll throw it up, see if it sells. If not, it doesn't matter, because we were mainly making it for clients, you know? So
Yeah.
it started to sell. We started traveling a little bit more, going to crop and stuff like that, setting up a little booth, selling some merch and patches and books. And it just, you know, was working so well that we just kept kind of building on top of that. And we still, I mean, to this day, I actually have a couple new designs that I'm sending to Grizzly Wheeler, our screen printer, to do. So it's kind of like, it's something that's always in the back of my mind now, where I'm like, okay, we haven't done anything for ourselves in a while. Like, I need to put some time and effort into that, you know? So.
Well, that was sort of like my next,
that time. So hard
was my next question, focusing on like,
you
know, do you devote time, right? Because time is always money. If you're an agency, it's like clients, right? Focusing on that. But I assume you guys must sort of devote some time into self-branding. Like, do you treat it like a client, or is it like squeezing in the in-betweens, or you know?
Yeah, it would be nice if we'd treat it like a client, but we don't.
It's kind of so hard.
It's kind of just,
let's be honest.
Yeah, exactly. That would be the ideal way to do it, you know, but for the most part, it's kind of like I said, you know, we haven't done anything in a little while. So I'm kind of like, okay, shit, we need to, I need to come up with some new ideas. I kind of put it on my shoulders to do most of that stuff. And then I'll come up with 2 or 3 ideas, do some of it myself, pass it off to, you know, Davey or Brandon or something. Hey, can you do, you know, this little illustration? Can you do some new type? So it's something that I just try and squeeze in the cracks when there's a little bit of time, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's been working. So whatever you're doing is a successful route.
Thank you.
When you made that transition, did it confuse some of your existing accounts to inform them of that at that time? How did that go? Did you share it directly with each and every on a personal level, or did you make more of a collaborative announcement? How did that
more
work?
on a personal kind of level? With, you know,
personal touch that way.
Yeah, each client, each contact, you know, kind of reached out, told them the story, you know, why we changed the name, why we're moving up north, you know, who was going to continue, you know, on with the new studio. Cause I ended up keeping 4 of the guys that were with me at the old studio came along, you know, to Lincoln. So it wasn't like this whole, like, oh, we shut down, we got all new employees, new style, you know, it was basically like, hey, it's the same style, same.
It's funny, it can cause people to panic when they hear about that shift and change.
Right.
Yeah.
For sure.
But I think too, if they know you are attached to it and you've built that trust, right, then they're like, I don't care with the name, dude. Like, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes that's the goal.
Where it was like that first project, you know, say for an old client we've been dealing with for, you know, say 5 years or something. Yeah. That next project that was billed as Lincoln, you know, like I was telling the guys when we would start, like, this thing has to be as good or better, you know, this first project. Cause if it is a little bit less, their first thought is going to be, okay, this isn't the same, you know, same group, same employees, same quality as what I was getting, you know, and they're just going to be gone. So we made a huge effort to make sure that everything kind of moved smoothly. And we really made those clients happy. So
it seems like part of the fundamental Lincoln approach, at least like from the work you show and then your own self-branding, is like, it's about, you know, you guys create a lot of systems, right? So like a brand identity, you guys encompass like a ton of different stuff, but it all works really well because it's still, you know, there's a sense of cohesion. But, you know, I wonder if this is sort of a gateway to help you, like, here's what we do. Like when you come to us, you know, it's rarely for just like, here's a single mark, goodbye. It's like, we're going to develop a system that you can use, you know, heavy applications from anything from, you know, social media to murals. Like it's all part of these sort of logo identity suites. So I'm wondering, like, does that sort of help, you know, when people find your stuff, you're doing it, does that sort of help pave the way for how you're delivering these? Because that is kind of unique to you guys. I mean, I don't see as often where it's agencies are putting out, you know, 12 marks for a brand, but it works super well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, we have, you know, a lot of the projects that come in, we'll kind of tackle it as a team, you know, not everybody on every single project, but there's usually at least, you know, 2 or 3 of us working on the same project, kind of kicking in ideas and things like that. And then we'll present, you know, what we think is the best stuff and kind of narrow it down from there. 90% of the time it's like this, like say they come to us for, I don't know, 3 badges for an event or something like that. We'll probably show them like 6 or 9. And then most of the time they go, oh, well, these 6 are amazing. Can we just take them all and pay you the extra or whatever? So
dude, I mean, that's best
cool.
case scenario. If I
Totally.
could sell all options instead
Totally.
of one every time,
Yeah.
you know?
Yep.
But do you find are you pretty focused on that overall thing? I guess there's a reason why 5 might work for a company. That's not that they're coming to you for the design expertise, right? Like, you're in one zone with those. So I think that's maybe a lockup right there, isn't it? Like that they might go, hey, these look like a series. Let's go with them.
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty cool.
All kind of looks cohesive and everything. So it's hard for them to go, oh, we'll just go with that one like we planned. They're like, oh, we'll take it all. So it's worked out over the years, but yeah.
That's great though.
There's also benefit of like a company, having a mark is great, but if you're doing any sort of merchandise or any sort of lifestyle brand of any kind, it's like, it's a merchandise is where you can really expand the brand, and having these marks at the ready, it's like, maybe it doesn't go on, every stamp for our primary, but man, we can throw that on a thermos or a shirt or whatever it is. Yep. I think like having that forethought and just having that system is solid. Yeah. I think it works every time.
I remember seeing all of your logos for the first time, Dan. And I think it was when we got a great tour of your studio during Crop. Special thanks to Matt for putting all that together and stuff.
Yeah.
I think I wanted to come up to you and ask you, I'm like, dude, if you could just choose one, what would it be? And then I realized you don't need to. Like that's the magic of it. Like, you had 9 different in one area, you had 9 different Lincoln logos going on. And I was like, that's just ballsy. And I just love that idea.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. It's, I like it in the fact that, we don't have to commit to just that one, and
no, exactly.
I mean, right now I'm kind of getting tired of what we have going. So it's time to, change it
Funny.
up.
There we go.
But like, I think it's an antiquated thought to think like you have to stamp the same mark over and over for brand equity and recognition and having a strong ID. It's like, it's not true. I think it's the way that your whole brand as a whole encompasses
everything
cohesion, right? And I think you guys, again, are like such a good case study for like, you can fucking change up the mark every few months if you want to, and it still works. There's still something about the cohesion of like how it operates, how things look and feel. You can always sort of tell like a Lincoln Design illustration or brand out there. And I don't really know, maybe it's just part of like your guys' company culture. We can get into that a little bit because I'm super curious of like how you guys operate that.
Yeah, me too.
Cool.
But it's really strong. Like there's something there, like something in the water from Lincoln that you can kind of tell without, the stamp repeat.
Yeah. Thank you.
Before we get into like the guts of what we want to talk about, tell us a little bit about the YouTube channel and the chop up. This has been something cool that's pretty new for you and putting yourself out there. How's it going? What's the coolest part of this after 3 episodes now?
Yeah, 3, I think. Yeah, by the time this comes out, it might be 4. It's cool. It's something new, totally new for us, totally new for me. It's something that we would have never done if the whole lockdown COVID thing wasn't going on, we'd be spending our time and money kind of traveling and, going to Crop and going to clients and stuff like that, So it's definitely something that, because we're all stuck at home or stuck in the studio or whatever, we were talking like, okay, well, how are we going to still get in front of, our clients' faces, fans and designers and stuff like that. So we're basically, we're like, okay, let's try this. Let's try a YouTube channel. So
yeah, dude.
So we just launched it a couple of weeks ago. It's going really good. I mean, the first episode, we thought we were going to be happy. I think we had said we're like, oh, we'll be happy if, we get like 150 subscribers and whatever likes, and it like tripled what we thought. And there was like 60 or 70 comments, and people are reading paragraphs, and I'm going, Jesus, like, people like it. So then the next one came out, it did better. So it's done a lot better than I thought, So we're going to keep pushing on it. And it's something totally new for me because I'm not your public speaker. I don't want to be in front of the camera type of guy, I'd rather stay behind the scenes, but it's definitely cool to kind of get out there, explain our process, show some of our projects. And a lot of it came from, we do a lot of designs where it's designed for a physical product, whether it's, packaging or apparel or skateboard graphics or whatever. And so with those projects, I try and always get a sample of everything we do. So almost every week, every other week, we have stuff showing up at the studio of different, projects that finally got finished. And a year later, we finally get the sample of it. So it kind of collects on our island out there. So I was always kind of like, people need to see this. Like,
dude.
Otherwise it just sits there. It's totally true.
It's just sitting here, and we finally got the final product, and there's this whole process that led up to getting this thing finally in our hands. We should probably start showing this. And we should put more time into our website, which we don't, because, at that point you should take the product, shoot it, get it up on your website, show some of the process.
It's a process, man.
But so it takes so long.
And a time suck.
But this also sounds like it could be a replacement, because you're almost doing virtual case studies on your site, and it makes you think too. And seeing how people have reacted to it. I was watching it the other day, and I think you called out someone I know, Justin Roy. He wrote some really great thing to you, and the way you even highlighted it and showed his thing, that engagement is so cool too. But what you're teaching is also what someone who's watching is going to learn from. And that's kind of that's our whole goal with what we do as well. And it's such a neat thing to share. Like, and I love that you're saying too, we're so virtual with everything we have. You have physical things that you want to show off.
Exactly.
And it makes such a difference. It's like, we all want that, right? Every designer wants to see their work in the real world, physically, not so much digitally. And it's still excites us.
Yeah.
Well, and it's just like, and it's also, you can dive deeper, right? Like putting a case study on your site, it's like, well, you kind of have to take them A to Z, maybe a few like options that weren't chosen. But this is like, you can talk about like, man, we had this fucking hurdle where it's like the Billie Eilish, like having the negative, right? Like that's a whole thing that you're not going to put that on a website case study, but this is the kind of meat that you can get into when you're just talking about the process, what it was like making this thing. Exactly. And that Billie Eilish, part of the episode was so solid. Like, I mean, just you don't really think about like all these major steps you have to go from A to Z, right? Especially something with a client like of that stature. So like, it's great to kind of dig in and seeing how other people handle that stuff. I think everyone is always looking for like the transparency, and what's nice is it doesn't have to be glossed over. You can really dig into like, here's the problems and here's how we overcame them, right? And the production value on that is so good.
Oh,
like,
dude,
I think that's the other, it's a fucking TV show.
Thank you. We're gonna, and it not like the chop up is gonna kind of be that production value, and then we're gonna sprinkle in ones that are, we're gonna do some, at some point when we can get out of the office and people are moving around, we're gonna do some, some retreat ones, some travel.
Nice.
Like,
hell yeah.
Stuff like that. So it'll kind of be this constant, the chop up show. And then on top of that,
you can further it that way. That's great.
These are wonderful things that I think, as much as it's doing for you externally, you could probably show this to a client and say, look at the culture, we've created here. And these videoed case studies is just a whole other, that's blowing my mind right now. I'm already thinking ahead of how to start using that. It's a great idea. We talked a little bit about, how you made that switch in, and we want to kind of start talking about the advantage to the average listener and the folks that like can really kind of take into the insight you had. You started the gig, you kind of made the move and into Lincoln. What was it like getting those first few clients, setting up shop, bringing the team over, all those challenges? What kind of stuff did you realize was working at that point?
I thought the bulk of it was just transitioning all of your existing over, and some maybe you hadn't.
Yeah, I mean that's where when I started the first studio in San Diego, I mean that was in 2004. So that was quitting a good corporate job at DC Shoes, which I was doing a ton of fun work, working with a ton of great people. So quitting that job to jump off and start a studio with an old high school buddy, that was the real sketchy part in my career, where I was kind of like I had a 6-month-old my 6-month-old son at that time. So it was kind of like, my wife's like, really, you have retirement, you have
that's a leap.
That's a leap. That's a leap.
Take this leap, so and it was basically almost a freelance deal where it was just me and my buddy that were doing it. We quickly hired our first guy right after, and then a couple other people. But that was the scary part. And what led up to that was a lot of freelance work on the side and on the weekends, where we had built some clients, some contacts. So I felt comfortable doing that to a point,
Yeah.
But I also tell like people and students, like I feel like there's a lot of people coming out of school right now trying to go from school to freelance, and to me, that's like that's a bad move.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the clients I still have, a lot of the contacts I still have to this day came from that first job.
Yeah.
And I worked 5 years in the design industry before I took that leap.
It's a major part of building that initial network for sure.
You have to. If you don't have a network, like you might have a bunch of jobs this month, next month, but at some point it's going to slow down.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that's always been my kind of big advice is like work in the industry, go to school and then get a job in the industry. I don't care what it's in, but you will make contacts, that are going to last a lifetime. So then, with closing the old studio and starting Lincoln, there wasn't that many challenges, just because I would say 70-80% of the work was still coming from my previous clients. We just kept the ball rolling with that. Moving up to Portland, Dustin came with me, helped me move, and then we brought Davey back out from France, and then Damaso and Brandon stayed in San Diego working full-time from home.
Yeah.
And they're currently still doing that. Damaso just moved up to Spokane, but Brandon's still in San Diego. So that was the one, that was a bit of a challenge because I had never, had an employee that was remote. Those two guys were in San Diego with me in the studio for the last 10 years before.
Well, that's when the trust has to be there and grounded for sure.
Exactly. And it was because we had worked together for years and years. And at one point at the old studio, Damaso had asked me, hey, do you think I can work from home like, 3 or 4 days a week? Because with those guys, they're heavy illustration. They're doing, they get their project and they're doing 8-10 hours or 10 hours of illustration. There isn't a ton of, back and forth like a design project or something. Like that. So he had pitched it to me years ago. And I was kind of like, at that time we had 10 or 11 people in the studio. And, I was kind of like, it's not fair to everybody else that you get to work from home, just because your job allows, and we're all here at the studio, and this is pre-COVID and everybody working at home now. So we kind of said, no, let's just pause on that. So I knew when moving the studio up here that he would be cool with working from home, so it ended up working out great. They're still working remotely from home. And it's worked. Works.
It's
really
neat
well.
that you found that location didn't really mean much before the rest of the world did.
Right.
Because I'm thinking too, like when you probably made that move up there again, like a client, as long as you had that withstanding trust and everything was going great, again, they're probably going, we don't care where you're located. Like we're doing everything virtually now and through.
Or internet. Did you have some accounts that did care?
Good question.
So we didn't really know. I mean, being in San Diego, there wasn't a lot of, I would say, clients or big companies down there that we were dealing with. I had a couple clients in LA that I'd go up to, probably every 2 months, and kind of stop by those clients. But for the most part, no. It really wasn't an issue.
It's just the way the world is going. I mean, every once in a while, we'll get those individuals that are super passionate about our local relationship, but by and large, it's not.
I think there's a benefit to sometimes because it allows you, if the client's great too, your meetings and your things are so much more efficient. You're just going, look, this is all we got. We got a quick phone call, or you can handle it all through email. And sometimes it actually is good. I know the local ones back in the day, you're like, let's go meet up. And you're like, that's like 4 hours.
Right. That's like my whole day is going to be gone.
Dude, I work with a lot of breweries, and it's like that's their mentality of like, oh, come have a beer. It's like, well, it's Friday afternoon, 4 beers later, I'm not gonna be able to go back and do work. Like, guys,
it's so sweet though.
Yeah, there's one silver lining during COVID, right? Like that hasn't happened.
So with that streamlined virtual internal setup that you've got running now, what would you say is the biggest hang up for you?
The biggest hang up, I would say right now with having the other guys, Jordan and Dustin, and now we have an animation guy, not having those guys in the studio, because with those projects, those are the heavy graphic design, packaging.
Yeah, lots of
Where
collaboration.
you need that consistent check-in. Sure.
Yeah, there's so much collaboration going on. It's so easy in the studio to just kind of yell back and forth or whatever,
Yeah.
So I don't like the work at home thing at all. Like I couldn't do it. I mean, I'm in the studio today. I come in every day.
Yeah.
I have 3 kids at home, so I
That's
need
right.
to,
Yeah.
I need to get
It's
out
a
of
way
there,
to hunker
but-
down. It's
No,
a way to
for
hunker
sure.
down and feel productive. I get that.
Yeah. And so we have Jordan and Dustin come in on Wednesdays now. So we're like trying to ease back into it. But to me, that being next to each other, that, lunchtime, like, oh, hey, how you feeling about the due date at the end of the day on this project type of stuff is so much easier in person,
Well, it's organic.
And those are like,
it's not a check-in on Slack,
Yeah.
Right.
But those are the avenues that really build company culture. It's that face-to-face interaction. Like, and I know that's always like a big part of this agency life is like, that company culture is what's fueling the drive and the inspiration and the good work. Yeah. I'm not convinced that you can really build that remotely. I just don't know how, because you're not in constant contact, or if you are, it's like it's a meeting, or it's like about, you don't have the fun in between the stuff either. It doesn't feel like you're in the trenches.
Totally
together.
Missing.
Yeah. And for Lincoln, it seems like you guys really do have this very strong sense of company culture where, like, you guys invest on retreats and you guys have your own merchandise, and it doesn't seem like you have a ton of turnover. It seems like the guys you get are on the team, like these are so
there to stay. But those that are illustrators, that you made a good point earlier, they just need to be in their cave and hit the ground running with that. I mean, it is different than the animation collaboration that you're speaking to. I understand that.
Yeah, for sure.
And the trust is there, so let them go, right? Let them fly.
Yeah.
What do you do primarily now, particularly with the remotes and all that, but time management skills or practices? Has anything really stood out that works for you guys that's like worth sharing with the solo entrepreneur, someone that I think we all still struggle with it, trying to find out what works and what doesn't,
Yeah. I'm we use Slack heavy. Super, that's our day-to-day as far as keeping in contact. I also use it. I set up separate channels for some of our bigger clients. So they have their own Slack channel. So we have, 3 or 4 different channels. So I can talk back and forth with them. Cause we have a couple clients that are, retainer clients that are, stuff going on every month. So
totally.
So we use Slack for all that, as far as even, showing, especially now, showing just sketches and comps, right off the bat, throw it up on Slack, get some comments, keep rolling. So Slack, I couldn't live without Slack right now. I mean, that's our go-to. And then we're starting to use Asana for like calendar and some other things.
Yeah.
But I'm not super knowledgeable in it. I'm kind of like just getting into it over the last year, and it's cool. I like it, and I think it's going to be super beneficial, but right now we're kind of just diving in. So
cool. How do you keep Slack from not going? It's such an animal, right? It's this beast that we can use, and it could totally, I'm new to it as well, and I love every element of it, but you can see where it can be a little toxic too. Like, it's like, whoa, this is, everything runs on it. Do you have a certain threshold that you try to keep with it?
Stuff gets lost in there too. I mean, we've had some things get lost, where I make a comment or, hey, just to give you a heads up, this thing's due 2 hours early, and one of the guys doesn't see it, like it gets pushed down.
10 gifts later.
I hate that. And those threads get really deep.
Yeah. It's not the prettiest thing, it's.
I feel like if they just integrated calendar in some form, it would be like the perfect, because that's, to me, that's the weak spot. It's like, I can't see things at a glance. I know you can search, but it's like, well, if I miss something, I'm not going to search for it. Or like just the scheduling calendar would be nice.
It would be, for sure. Yeah, that's where we're starting to use Asana for that. And I'm kind of
I was just going to say,
but now you got 2 or 3 different programs going just for time management.
Sometimes it can be just too much. I know.
Learn a whole new instrument for sure.
And that's where if the guys were in the studio, I could cut down on a lot of that Slack, use, but
right.
For now.
And then when an email comes in, isn't it just the most annoying thing? Like,
yeah. Now you got, That's what's so great is it cut down on the email, which is great.
Right.
Even with, like with the client Slack channels, even with that, it's so much better because you're just going back and forth, real time instead of getting an email from the client and.
And you have to have the pleasantries with every email and every phone call, where Slack, I feel like cuts that out almost immediate. It's right to the point, right?
It does. Yeah.
What about even analog wise? Like, what are the things that, outside of the technology and everything, like even telling clients when something's going to be due, or your own time management, there you go.
That's right.
Love it.
Dude.
Like,
holding up a notebook with a ton of stickies.
My computer's
I'm a sticky fanatic.
Sticky notes in my notebook. I can't go without that.
Same.
I have to, and every day I put right next to me right here, like this list of stuff for the day to get done,
Yeah.
And I start kind of crossing them off as I go through the day,
Yeah.
And by the end of the day, if you can get them all crossed off or whatever, you feel like, oh, that was a good day.
Yeah.
I got a lot done today.
It's like it's like your gold stars. It's like you're like, look at this. Sometimes I even love the fat chisel pencil marker and just cross that one off. I don't even want to read what it was.
Dude, that kind of stuff puts me to bed because otherwise I'm stirring and thinking all night, right? But like if I can get a to-do list either made for the next day or crossed off for that day, I'm good. Like those little habits I think are crucial.
Yeah. And I tried doing it like digitally on my phone and having a list in my phone, and then I forget to go back and look at it. So like I need it on my desk in front of me, where I'm looking at it all day.
Dude, I'm the same way. I'm always surrounded by like at least a few notebooks just for that reason. Yeah. And it's just like, I think it's quicker, it's tangible. And if like, I don't know, if I have a sketch idea for something like this project I'm writing down, I can't do that on my phone. I can't write out what it's going to look like or it lives separate from, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's good or bad, but I'm with you on the.
I think whatever works for you is best because like, I know I have friends that I see them doing it so well digitally, particularly like maybe taking the iPad, and it's this great combination of both what you just showed, Dan, and kind of like what you were just talking about, Jordan, with the sketch and everything. And I'd say notes is something I use. I think we've all talked about notes is so great too, because of the shareability, and I can pick it up from any device, and that's super easy. It's not super advanced with its technology. It's almost an analog version of a digital to me, That's why I like it. Have you gotten better? Have you gotten better or worse during the COVID with this time management? I'm just curious because like you're not traveling as much. So has it gotten better or?
I feel like it's gotten better. And I feel like it's forced me to kind of try and figure out other ways to do things and, kind of force the Slack usage more. It forced Asana kind of getting into that. So I would say I'm getting better. I've gotten better for sure. Yeah.
It looks organized, especially behind you. So you're doing something right, dude.
I'm curious. I want to just touch a little bit on the idea of retreats, company retreats. Like, and I think for the most part, like people might assume, are they just like, corporate retreats is about going and figuring out like whatever the next year plan or execution or like team building, whatever that might be. But you guys do them frequent and they always look super fun. And I'm just curious, like your philosophy, because I assume that's an investment, taking time away from work and renting places and feeding and drinking. And
how frequent are they?
And also like, what's the value in it for you? Like what, and frequency.
We always do one big one a year where it's like 6 days, whether it's up on Mount Hood or the Oregon coast. We've kind of went back and forth in those two areas, but for me, it's just getting out of the studio and it's not, we'll go for 6 days. It's not full playtime the whole time, like we bring all of our equipment.
Dude, I've seen like beach houses with computers.
We clear it out. We'll go in and I try and find a house or whatever. We'll go in, clear out the family room. I bring a bunch of pop-up tables. Everybody sets up their own desk and we'll spend 2 days all working together. Yeah. And it's cool because then we get Brandon and Damaso up with us working, so it's something that I wanted to start doing mainly because those two dudes weren't in the studio.
Sure.
Okay. Moved up here. So that was the whole reason for the very first one was like, okay, at least once a year, you guys need to come up and we need to all work together for 1 week straight,
Dude, that's awesome.
So we did it the first time. It was super fun. We kind kind of did some posts and, made a little zine out of it and stuff like that. And then just continued doing it every year. And then in between, like we'll usually do like 1 or 2 small trips, whether it's to like Designer Con or Crop or something like that, and spend a couple days. But yeah, it's been, I feel like it's priceless, as far as that time,
Yeah.
And a year goes by so quick, all of a sudden the next one pops up and it's like, oh shoot, like here we go again. So it's been good. This last year, we obviously couldn't do one. We're actually going February 16th through the 19th for like a 3-day one out here on the Columbia River Gorge, but it's just going to be basically half of the companies coming out. We're going to do like a 2-day meeting, Zoom the other guys in, and just kind of talk about 2021 and kind of goals and stuff like that. So we're going to do, it'll be like a mini one, but yeah.
Yeah.
Is it a time where you guys like you just said, almost like take stock and look ahead?
Yep.
Plan some goals as well?
Yep. Yeah. Kind of plan out, some goals, what we want to accomplish for that year. And then even kick around ideas of like, who would you want to work for? What's your dream client if we could land one this year, or what kind of projects, would you like to see us taking on that are a little different than what we're doing or whatever. So yeah, it's good. You just get that conversation going, get a couple drinks and, a little
That's
barbecue.
Right.
Yeah.
Everyone speaks a little bit differently and has a little more fun. So,
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. We know it from our drinking podcast episodes. same thing.
Does that become a little bit of a prerequisite when come interview process? Are you sure to disclose that that's a part of your gig yearly and maybe trickling in a few smaller roundups? That is a mandatory consideration. It's extremely important to our culture. How do you feel about that? Do you run it by them at the beginning phase like that, or do you just kind of feel them out over time upon hire?
No, I definitely let them know, hey, this is something we do, every year, and pretty much you're expected to come.
Yeah.
Good. Their first question to you is probably like, when's the next retreat, Dan?
Right. Yeah. I mean, usually they kind of know about it or are, excited about it. Like we have a new animation guy who's just coming on. So we kind of went through that whole process with him and, this is what we're doing and everything, so. And now, now it's weird with the new one coming up. I gave everybody an option, like,
sure.
Everyone feels a little bit different about what's going on, as far as traveling or just
how conservative they're playing it
with multiple people, so it's kind of it was everybody's option to either come or not, so.
No, totally. Yeah.
Right.
You have to at this point. And then you hear, maybe even you can be a part of it virtually if you don't want to, it's like, but the great things that come out of it, these things that you are looking at ahead, like when we were talking, the three of us were talking earlier, and we're like, when we talk about culture with Dan, like what kind of these goals you have in mind for it, how can like even the solo entrepreneur cultivate the same kind of thing, even if they're by themselves, and I think it's this checklist of what you want to get out of it, right? Like, so like anything else that would be like we have great communities with just other solo designers. That's a great example as well. What else could they do, you think, that would be inspired by what you guys get out of these fantastic retreats?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something that's, say you're a freelance designer. It's something that you should almost set goals for yourself, as far as like, a lot of times I look at it when we get a new client, I kind of go, okay, where is this client located? How long would it take me to drive there or fly there? If I do fly there, is there another client or person or designer that I can see in that city or whatever,
Yes.
So if I was a freelance person and I got a new client, I would kind of look at like, okay, can I fly out to Seattle, meet with this client, stay 2 extra days, go to, my favorite shop or Filson or stop by and see if I can say hi to Invisible Creature or whoever's up in that area, and almost create your own retreat and trip, I mean, this all sounded good before COVID. Now nobodo's taking.
We'll get back to something.
Hopefully, eventually, at some point, everybody gets back to that.
Yeah.
I would.
Yeah, I know.
I think the more you can get out of the office and show your face, either at the crops design conferences, or even just showing up at a client, at their office for a day. And, if they're kicking off a big project, hey, can I drive down and we do this in person,
love that idea.
Great.
I mean, it's sort of even circling back to the beginning of like, I think with projects come like with networking, like you got to cultivate some relationships. And as freelance, that can be hard if you don't maybe come from the agency or you go right into it. But that's a good opportunity to like build some networks. Maybe you go to a buddy who works for a client, they're looking for someone, that you specialize in that or whatever that might be. It's like those opportunities is how you build a network. It's cultivating relationships.
You make it yourself.
Sometimes it does take a while to get there. I mean, it's no secret you're doing well for yourself, Dan. So for those that are cranking out the work, can't really afford to leave, single parent, maybe double income, can't really afford those trips, loves the idea of it, but is all talk, isn't putting it in action nearly. I'm speaking for myself here to be totally transparent with you.
Right.
I hate that I can't make those rounds. I would love to get coffee and beers from a bunch of different regions of the Pacific Northwest, which is local for me up here, but I just can't. Affordability wise, another. So how do you make that work? I mean, because that is extremely impactful, that scenario that you just indicated.
Yeah. I've had 2 clients in the past that would, I would pitch to them, hey, I would love to come up there and meet with you, and kind of say, but I don't have the means to do that right now. Like,
can you take 50% or whatever?
Is there any way we can kind of put this into
great
the
idea
for the project, and you guys actually pay for my flights and hotel? And
dude, that's a great idea.
It worked both times. Like,
I've done that a couple times, but that's like a stable client that's like over a decade.
For sure.
And it takes a while to get there, right?
Yeah.
But that's a really good thing to keep in mind. Because by and large, if you're going to go freelance, you're going to have a stable account nonetheless.
Yeah, for sure. Exactly.
That's such a cool idea to think of as well. Because you're right. I know the reality of it sinks in, and it might be a tough thing to do. But also, even as well, I think we've learned that whatever hybrid comes out of this past year and into now, there seems to be more happening virtually than ever before. I think I've met more people in our industry virtually than ever before in this last year. And so hopefully somewhere down the road, these things that you've nurtured, great new relationships, whatever. I just love the fact that if for any reason you get to go to some city, there might be someone to finally link up to and meet. But if you can't, I think the virtual world is just this. That's where I think it's successful land in the future, is being able to keep these things alive. I'm sure, have you realized maybe certain trips to a client in the future might not be so necessary anymore? You can do them online, and it would save everybody a lot of time and energy.
It's become a fat go-to for so many now that they're like making shifts and changes internally, knowing where they can foot the bill more so in with other means. It'll really be interesting to study how this all transpires. There was this super interesting segment with the Netflix CEO, and he was talking about how if we lose sight of this person-to-person culture in-house, we're going to screw ourselves and our business. Therefore, he really spoke passionately about that, because lots have become very passionate about that hybrid and saving a dollar and being able to shift their business otherwise, and maybe getting a little too carried away with that forecast.
Well, I think,
I mean, it bums me out every time I hear, in the beginning, like Facebook and some of those bigger companies are like, we may never go back to having these employees in house. And I know we have Dustin's girlfriend works for Nike, and we have some friends at Nike, and they have, as of this point, they have no plans of those people coming back in 2021.
Wow.
They're like, don't plan on coming back this year. And I'm like, that's not good.
And is that because they know it's been successful so far, or for safety protocol purposes at a corporate level that they're like, let's pad it a little bit with a safety net?
Yeah, I would hope that's what it is.
Me too.
Or PR.
It is safety, and it's not about the dollar or whatever, because I highly doubt they're getting the same amount of productivity out of some of these people.
I agree.
I mean, it works for some people, and we're fortunate enough that that our industry and what we do for a living, like it works, you know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you can do
I
this
know.
from home, and
Right.
make a good living, but
Yeah.
you know, there's a lot of jobs at Nike and stuff that you can't,
Collab.
you know,
No.
like, you know,
Right.
those
Well,
marketing
yeah,
people and stuff like that, like, you know,
it doesn't seem like
um,
it's a blanket thing of like, oh, you either
There you
work
go.
from home or you don't. And I think you're, even as like a little microcosm of that idea, it's like, well, illustrators, that makes sense why like
mhm,
that lends better opportunity to work from home versus someone who's developing a brand and your day to day, it's like constant back and forth, right?
yeah,
So like even at someone Nike, they got, thousands of different jobs. It makes sense why like maybe some would work better than others, but
Yeah.
certainly not just the
no,
whole lot. I
mhm,
would wager that like I think companies might try that because they see some immediate like, oh, look at all this overhead we save.
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm with you though.
But
I'm not convinced productivity will. I think it'll
yeah.
shift back even after like 6 months. They're like, holy shit, things
Yeah.
are moving slower. It's just
Some
it's inevitable.
someone's got to
You're at
use that big
home.
Apple ring, that building. Like,
Yeah.
come
yeah,
on,
right, yeah,
and
exactly,
like I've seen some headquarters in my day, and it's like you're going back, but you're right. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens in the future with that, because
Mm,
certain things, even for us folks that work from home or have our own businesses, just going to a Starbucks and
yep.
opening up your
Getting
laptop was
out.
the way to do it, and not being able to even do that in LA right now. It's like that. I feel like uh hurts the solo entrepreneur. Just that was your way of getting a little culture and a little bit of like
Change of scenery
meet and
and
greet. Oh God, and
yep.
I
Yep.
I made clients out of it a few times just by having a business card, or
Mm.
and that's fantastic. And I feel like can't wait for that to come back, just for some of us that are missing that collaboration and human connection on
Or
a
just like that fucking
daily
change of
break.
scenery. It's like those are
yeah,
things that like if I can
Yeah.
find someone that makes me want to design or like fuels any
Well, it
creative
breaks up the
spark,
day
like
a little
I'm
bit
going for it.
nicer. Yeah.
Hmm.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the questions I think we get a lot from our listeners particularly, and I think all of us still feel the same, is you've got a good load of clients and you feel like it's perfect, right? Everything's doing great. How do you still kind of juggle that prospecting thing and your current workload? I know as a team you got multiple people here, but what advice would you have for someone that's like trying to do both and it's just a one person show?
yeah, yeah, that's it's tough. You know, I take on all the responsibility
Mm,
of getting new clients, sales, if you want to call it, you
It
know,
is,
interaction
yeah.
with the clients. It's something over the last year or two that I'm starting to loosen up and give some of that to some of these guys, and Dustin and Jordan and stuff like that.
mhm.
But it would be tough, because I have a hard time. I used to do a lot of the design work. It's getting less and less every year, and I have a hard time going from, like, now I feel like I'm struggling with it even more, going from, like, basically doing the day to day and the client relations and answering these emails and
Mhm.
setting up a brief for that next project, and then stopping that and starting to design later that
Yeah.
day. It's kind of like, oh man,
It's two brains, man. It's two
yeah, it is
totally
too,
different. Yeah.
totally. And to shut one off and turn the other one
Just
on
yeah.
is
It doesn't
really
work that way
tough,
either. It's like, oh, I'm gonna create now. It's like that. It's so
yeah,
hard to make that work.
yeah, yeah,
Well, like, was it hard going from again, like, kind of designing and really like that creative side, and then transitioning to where you are now? But also, you're kind of leading, like you have a whole crew. Like, you're sort of, I assume you have to deal with like HR or just like
yeah.
any of these things that like, I don't know if there's just like a podcast you can listen to that tell you how to run a company. Like that seems difficult. And was the transition like, did you learn a lot from like the corporate world that you influenced how you kind of structure a company? Because again, those are very tough things to just like jump in and fucking figure
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't learn too much from, like, working my first job at DC, like definitely not as far as,
Yeah.
running a company or anything like that. And for me, it's just been this 15, 16 years of slowly
Cool.
picking things up here and there, talking to people. Some things work, they don't work, this
Yeah.
and that. And I don't feel like I have it all figured out. I could definitely do a lot of things better. Uh, but to me, it's just like a day-to-day learning process, and I'm
Yeah.
not super business guy. So I'm kind of learning as I go, and I'm a designer at heart, and
Yeah.
I've told people that, I'm not I didn't get into this to be a business owner. You know, I got into it because I love design.
Yeah, that
I
freedom.
transitioned into a business owner and doing more of that than design at this point. And I've slowly grown to love it, to love this side of it and the business side of it. You know, one of the things that gets me most excited is when a new project comes in and, you know, just kind of setting that up and it's a new client and getting
Totally.
and
Yeah.
that stuff really excites me nowadays. But like, I mean, as far as like learning, the cool thing now is that there's so many, you know, podcasts like this, so many YouTube channels and things, you know, the future and stuff like that, that there is a lot of content out there you can watch and read and listen to, you know, that can help you in that process. Like, I mean, when back in 2004, there wasn't anything, you know, anything like that.
No.
Yeah.
So,
No. Do you think about hiring somebody to wear that hat on the more of the business end so that you can dip into files more so than you're able to now? Or do you feel like you're still transitioning and you found your path and this is heading somewhere for you personally that you don't want to give it up? It feels good to have that onboarding experience with clientele for the first time. And
yeah, I feel like I enjoy that and I will, you know, keep that process. But we're definitely looking to bring somebody in to kind of project manage and production as well. To
That's a
help
good
out with
combo.
some of the stuff, take some of that off of my plate.
yeah.
But I'm going to continue to kind of be the, you know, the first contact and stuff
Yeah.
like that. I have a good friend who owns a motion graphic studio, Barton Dammer, and it's called Already Been Chewed. I mean, you guys have probably heard of it.
Yeah, totally.
But he, like, I talked to him a lot about, you know, project management and how he does it, because their projects are huge as far as motion graphics, and, you know, it's a long process, rendering, like there's a lot of, you know, downtime and all that. And, you know, he gave me some great advice on, you know, hiring a project manager, and he's went through a couple and salespeople, and, you know, his whole thing was like, you can't hire somebody that is just going to be a calendar pusher. You know, a lot of project managers in bigger
That's
companies
all they
are
really
basically just
do. Yeah.
yeah, they're managing a calendar, you know.
Totally.
Yeah. And keep revising the project timeline. It's
Yeah.
funny.
Without
Yeah,
no sense
exactly.
of how the job's actually doing in the trenches, right?
Yeah, you know, and he was like, you're the one talking to the client, so if there's a quick change in time or you know, a project needs to get finished sooner, or you can push it out, like, you're going to know that first before this project manager, and then the project manager gets bummed because that was part of their job. So
Yeah.
you know, I'm still trying to figure out who that person will
That's
be
tough.
and how to incorporate that. But
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
I mean, God, a good PM is like, and I contract with a number of agencies, and like the difference how a project is run is really all boils down to like a good project manager who's keeping everyone in the same, you know, field and knows what it's supposed to be. And it's just like so organized, which those things are just hard to find. Like, I don't know how you hire for that other than like find the right vibe in person and you know.
I just had a marketing director share with me that they didn't want to wear that hat for an upcoming huge site overhaul. Can you add that to your upcoming estimate proposal? And I'm going, oh, yeah, that's what I said. That's what I said. Oh, sure. And that's where you just really crank up the dollar bills because come on.
Yeah, because
that's
you're
not
like,
my niche here,
I don't want
people.
to deal with this either.
Yeah, exactly.
But for X amount of dollars, I'll do it.
Yeah, no, that's right.
But I think a lot of those solo designer folks, freelancers, do a little bit of that project management without even knowing and without even being put it in the estimate or whatever. So like, I think sometimes too, like that might be a good thing to explore and see if you can do, or maybe that's a great way of finally getting to add someone to your small team. You know, like I would think the first person I'd reach out to would be something like that to aid in a way where I can't do, and now I can instantly charge more for it because the client has said, we'd love you to do the project management. Do you know?
Yeah.
So any of those, like those are those little head starts or those little, you know, like kickstart things that kind of make you think, oh, I can go from 1 to 2 now, you know? And I think that's the hardest barrier. I think a lot of, you know, solo designers, freelancers do kind of face right now.
But I'm just so curious. I hope you don't mind me asking, how much of this is a challenge based on the control freak component of your personality that you don't want to hand it to somebody else. This is your gig.
Right.
You're
Yeah.
you're the founder. So
Right.
I struggle with that every now and again. You want your signature there, standing, stamped in there.
Yeah.
That's how you will progress with future point of contacts down the line, continue successful networking. When you give that part of the role up, that person has to be a freaking gem, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not easy to find.
No, it's not. And I feel like it's going to be trial and error, but
and it's costly. It's just,
you can't just bring someone on and go, oh, well, this isn't working, and find somebody else. So that's where I've avoided it, and tried to hold off as long as I can. But I think it is time. And it's something that I don't have like this clear vision of who that person will be and exactly what they will do, but I do know that we need help in that area. So.
And they have to jive with your family. I mean, you have a family there.
Yes, correct.
Yep. True.
That's a huge component of the check mark too. That's just interesting. Well, I'll be interested. I hope that there's a way that we can follow up with you when that comes about, because that'll be very cool to learn about from you and how you make it work and what you learned from it. And if you could do it again, what you'd remove or add or.
Dan zooms in from like vacation on some beach. He's like, it worked.
I'm down here and they're all working.
10 out of 10 would recommend. Just like
there's not much I could talk about. I don't know how everything's going great. I don't have.
I don't know how things are going. Let me ask. I'll get back to you.
You know what? One of the best things I saw you guys do, it was the newspaper kind of like self-promo piece that you guys put together, and
so dope.
And I'd love for you to share what your value is on that, because
do you have it with you there? Were you looking for it?
I was, I don't.
I could probably find it faster than you
we'll
can.
Link to it for sure.
I mean, it's over there. I know where there is one over there on the bookshelf. But
I think that for any young designer, anybody who's looking for a job or a freelancer, that's the self-promo thing is the hardest thing to like figure out. What's the advice? Like, what did you put in there? What's the content that became a game changer with a new client? Because they're all struggling. This is their way to stand out now, because a resume just sits in a freaking inbox. It's not even virtual anymore, right? It's a digital file.
Yeah.
How do you make it shine?
So I came from the print industry. My first job at DC, like I was doing these 200-page catalogs, ads for magazines, everything was print, so when starting that new agency, like I still was, 100% love print, love catalogs, old skateboard catalogs, snowboard catalogs, stuff like that, magazines. So with that first studio, we would make a book and send it out to all of our clients. We didn't sell the book or anything. It was just for internal use and to send to clients. And we got a great response from it. And we ended up getting a job. Like I ended up getting a call like 2 years later from a client out of the blue. And I was like, well, how did you find out about us? And they were like, you had sent me a book probably 2 or 3 years ago. And it's still on my desk in my little book collection here on my desk. And he's like, this project came up. I pulled it out and was like, oh, these guys will be perfect. And that's where, if you're going to make promo or something like that, the bad thing is you almost need to spend enough money that is done right. That when they get it, they don't want to throw it away. They want to get it in their collection. Where the newspaper thing was a little different, because that's going to get thrown away, I think, at some point. It's a cool format, and it's something that I've always wanted to do, was like actually newsprint, like portfolio piece, and I could never find anybody to do it on actual newsprint, because it's usually printed on a huge web press.
The process is so different.
It only starts at 1,000 copies and goes up from there. And I'm like, I just want 300, 400,
For sure.
And everyone's like, no, you can't.
Yeah, they do the massive volume, don't they?
Yeah. So there was a company in the UK that does it, and they do it's legitimate newsprint, and they print them in the UK and then they ship them. and it's great. I mean, the
Dude, that's
quality's great. It's
awesome.
a newspaper,
Amazing.
and the turnaround time is ridiculous. We had a 7-day turnaround time one time. We sent the file off 7 days later. The
Whoa.
box came from the UK, and I
Whoa.
was like, "How did this happen?"
Wow.
Like
That's amazing.
so,
And then it
yeah.
sets the bar, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
How did you
Yeah.
how do you brag about yourself without being, you know what I mean, like the content of it? I mean, first of all, the newspapers like had multiple pages, stories, columns of text, and everything.
So good.
But how, you know, I think a lot of people don't feel comfortable in bragging about those little slam dunk moments, those things you did for someone, right?
Right.
You've already shared with us that that's never been your comfort. That you
Right.
don't,
You know?
yeah.
How do you
Yeah.
do you just let the work show for itself with a little bit of rationale, or
Well, and if you have
Yeah.
a big enough of a following, and you do, then they just go hand in hand, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, to me, it's just a portfolio piece. If you're going to show the work on your website, why not put it into print form?
There you go.
And you
Yeah.
got to promote. You got to promote yourself. You got to promote your work. So that stuff I'm comfortable with. As far as, but being in front of the camera and saying, "Hey, look at us," or "Look at me," or "Look
Yeah.
at me," like not so much. But
Mhm.
if we can make a book of the work we did last year and and share that with clients and stuff, great. And then if people want to buy it or check it out, as well, designers, and cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's like letting the work speak instead of like, headline, look at this sick
Yeah.
logo that we made.
Yeah.
It's so cool. Like,
Yeah.
there's
What's
definitely-
wrong with that, Jordan? I do.
Yeah, no, it's definitely more of like, basically kind of case studies of like, hey,
Yeah.
here's
Yeah.
our project we did for Nitro Circus. I'm not telling you that what we did is amazing,
Yeah.
but here it is. Check it out.
Okay.
You can
Sure.
decide for yourself.
Yeah, wanting to
Yeah.
share. Yeah.
Yeah, just
here's,
sharing
here's
it,
how it
you
came
know?
alive,
Yeah.
right? And here's the process. And
I
here's
like
what
that
it's about,
approach a
you know?
lot.
And I love that a lot of these ideas are totally easy to just make digitally if it's the budget you can't afford and you
Mhm.
just need to do something, down and dirty.
Yeah.
It's almost like the video, I should say the digital world is a little bit free there, right? If it just lives on your website, but you got a cool button for the promo piece or something, why
Yeah.
not try?
Yeah. And even making, turning these books into digital download books.
Yeah.
We have our, a lot of our older, like we made a big one at one time.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
beautiful.
So
That's
good.
I
beautiful.
was sending out.
Look at that. Perfect
so I
bound
didn't- I-
business.
I see a
Print this
picture every
anymore?
time a student buys that. Boy, that's the first thing they're posting on Instagram. They're like, I got the Lincoln book.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
just a
exactly.
sweet piece.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And those are expensive to make, so we
Yes.
haven't printed that one again, but we put it up on
Yes.
our website. You can download the digital file,
Cool.
Yeah,
PDF.
nice. That's a great alternative. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people seem to like that, so I
They
mean,
just
you can
took a
make
ton
your,
of
as
time.
far as like a freelancer or a young designer, you can lay out a book,
Yeah.
if you don't have the money to print it right now, that's fine. Keep that PDF. If a client comes to you and inquires about a job, you can actually just shoot them the PDF. Hey, here's my book,
There you go.
and they'll be happy to flip through that PDF,
Oh, yeah.
and then maybe down the line, that project ends up being a big project and you can take, whatever, 25%
Yeah,
of that.
that's a really good point. Depending on the
Right.
demographic, people might prefer that over a website and not knowing how to navigate through
Mhm.
it.
Mhm.
I mean, case in point, like that guy who called you 3 years later because he had a sweet book, a printable, tangible thing that just like,
Yeah.
and turned into great client work. Like
Yeah.
that's where sometimes digital's, I think, also solid, but getting out of like the resume form or just a simple portfolio
Oh,
website
yeah.
is like, how can you
Break the mold.
engage with the clients in something that is more than, because they're getting those from everyone. It's like,
Yeah.
wow, can you do something a little different? Newspaper, boom, like
Yeah.
different idea. At least
Yeah.
going to be more engaging while they're going to look at it, right? And that's
Mhm.
sort of
Mhm.
90% of trying to get in there.
Cool.
Yeah.
Why don't we take a pause? Because I know we got to end it quickly here on timing, but we can wrap it up. Dan, we talked about this idea, maybe doing like a cool design challenge that we could get listeners to do something. What do you guys think? Would that be something cool to try?
Yeah, I know we have the next couple weeks are like super busy for us.
Gotcha.
And we took on this logo inspiration design challenge thing that we have to
Oh, that's right. Okay.
start
Oh,
on. So I don't
So it's
know.
already kind of,
yeah, I don't
simulating
really want
that.
to commit to anything
No
else.
worries.
Well, it might just be too confusing if someone's like, "Oh, are
Exactly.
you doing
Might
the
be,
Lincoln
yeah.
Design Challenge?" And
Yeah.
oh
no
yeah,
worries.
no, not that one, the other one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
That's
fine.
okay. That's okay.
Oh, yeah,
That's
man.
okay.
Yeah. I hate to say no.
Because also too, trying to fit it in with when your schedule of doing your show and all that other stuff. So don't even worry about it. This is going to be grand enough to just have a
For
great
sure. I was just going to say the
conversation.
same. What an honor to have this moment with you, and your just natural approach with conversation and a little bit of humility. It's wonderful. People are going to learn from this, and you're just a class act. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah,
thank you.
absolutely.
I mean, I'm always honored that someone wants to talk to me or talk about Lincoln or whatever,
Sure. Yeah. Every once in a while, we
something.
get these great recordings with creators like you, and their backstory is just nothing short of inspirational. I mean, it's great.
Yeah. Or just any creators finding a way to be different in some form. And I think you
Yes.
guys, again, like Lincoln does that so well. And I think
Yes. You have your
any member of the
uniqueness
community
about
is.
you. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very true. I mean,
This has been great,
yeah,
man.
I mean, the three of us can't compare it against something that simulates Lincoln. I know that we can't. So that says something big.
And to me, I always try and say, it's not me. It's, I mean, it is the group. It is, the team here.
Sure.
That, creates all this.
But your vision worked.
Yeah.
And also just like, again, that culture you've cultivated, like it,
Yeah.
I think that's that fuel that whatever like is in the water, I think is sort of born from like this.
Yeah. Everybody needs to go on retreats now. I know.
Or even the day-to-day process, whatever's working. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely working.
Can you just really quickly share with us how it's going with Carrie in the mix?
With who?
With Carrie Janssen in the mix.
Oh, the wife?
Yeah. She's
good,
part of the team.
Yeah, I couldn't do without her. She, she does all the billing, invoicing, everything. Like I can.
Oh, God bless her.
I could not handle that. Like,
that's a third brain, right?
It is a different mindset.
Yeah.
I mean,
totally. I don't enjoy numbers. I don't even like that's the one and only thing that kind of gets me angry is like numbers and nitpicking a project and what it's billed for or whatever. And she's amazing at that. She can do the numbers.
What a great balance.
And all that. So I'm fortunate to have her, to have a wife that can handle that. And she knows the industry. She went to the Art Institute in Denver with me. She got a degree in fashion marketing.
Oh, dope.
So it's not like she
not having to introduce the wheel for the first time.
Yeah, no, exactly. She knows the whole industry and everything.
That's great. That's huge. And she can probably toggle between motherhood and that fairly well. For your biz. That's great.
And protect you because there's a connection there, right? Like,
you want to hand that over to someone you trust. Like,
exactly.
More than like your wife.
We've heard way too many horror stories, of accountants or people that taking away and running with the money. So, but dude, that's fantastic. Well, dude, this has been great. Dan, again, thank you so much, dude.
So great.
So glad we got this in the books for sure. It's gonna be a great one for our listeners as well.
Thank you guys. I appreciate you having me on.